Hi geographers, and welcome to this latest video of the CVA Geography YouTube channel. Today looking at Typhoon Haiyan, which hit the Philippines in November 2013. What I want you to do first is just pause the video now, write your title and complete the do now. Thank you. Right, brilliant, well done. Let's go through some of the answers. We've got number 1 is increase, number 2 is I will, number 3 is 30 degrees north and south of the equator. Number 4 is between 5 and 30 degrees north and south of the equator. Number 5 is 27. Number 6 is 60%. And number 7 is 20,000. So let's crack on. So today we're going to identify what Typhoon Haiyan was, explain the effect, and then judge the effects of it, which links to our blue zone with reference to a tropical storm you have studied. Assess the significance of primary and secondary effects. What we need to do first is just to pause the video again and just write down the keywords of primary effect, secondary effect, social, economy and environmental. Brilliant, let's go. So when we're talking about effects can be categorised into two. We've got a primary effect. This is the first impact of a natural event. This could be homes being destroyed, this could be the total economic damage, this could be death, this could be injury. And then the secondary effects are the knock-on impacts of primary effects. So this could be homelessness, outbreaks of cholera, looting, landslides. So what I really want is for you to be clear that the primary effects happen first, secondary effects are as a result of the primary. So just a little quiz for you, so I just want you to write down, is it a primary or secondary? So number 1, houses destroyed, 2, homelessness, 3, spread of cholera, 4, farmland flooded, 5, economic damage, and 6, people losing jobs. So I'll pause it there and let you write down primary or secondary. Brilliant guys, what you should have got is the first one's primary, the second and third one are secondary, the fourth and fifth one are primary, and the sixth one is secondary. So the Philippines. The Philippines is a newly emerging economy located in Southeast Asia, where the average income is around $10,000 per year. Life expectancy 70 and HDI is 0.7 compared to the UK, which you can see there is a high income country. The picture shows Manila, which is the capital city. It shows that people might live in shanty towns, so they've got informally built homes which will be destroyed if there is severe weather. So this just shows us the track of Typhoon Haiyan. Typhoon Haiyan was a super typhoon with wind speed over 200 kilometers an hour. It's a category 5 typhoon on the Saffir-Simpson scale, and it formed in the Pacific, travelled across the Philippines, and then travelled across the Sea of China, across to Vietnam, Laos, and then it dissipated over China. So what we've got here for you is just a summary of Typhoon Haiyan. Okay, what I want you to do is pause the video now. I want you to read the information and answer the questions 1 to 5 in full sentences. So pause the video now, have a little read through about Typhoon Haiyan and just answer the questions. Right, so did you get number 1, November the 8th, number 2, category 5, number 3, 27 degrees, number 4, 195 miles per hour, 15 foot and 281.9 millimeters, and number 5 was the storm surge, as it was not predicted. Brilliant, so now you know what Typhoon Haiyan was, we need to talk through the effects. So there's different primary and secondary effects, okay? So we've got primary effect, 1 million homes were destroyed. This means people were homeless, and a secondary effect is 1.9 million were homeless. What this led to with people being homeless is people more likely to get sick by living on the streets, which means the death toll from the typhoon will increase. Another primary effect was 6,300 people were killed by the typhoon. This is really bad for the Philippines, because what this means is there are less economically active people working in the country. So the government gets less taxes from less workers, which means they've got less money to repair infrastructure which was destroyed in the storm. Got 5.6 million people lost their jobs. This is a secondary effect. So their workplace was destroyed, and the secondary effect is 5.6 million people lost their jobs. This means people have less disposable income, which means people cannot afford to provide enough food for their families, which means there could be a rise in malnourishment and famine in the Philippines, resulting in more death. So far we've got 1 million people who are made homeless, 1.9 million people were homeless, 1 million houses were destroyed, 6,300 people died, and 5.6 million people lost their jobs. Right, I have a little quiz for you. So question 1, how many homes were destroyed? How many people were made homeless? How many people lost their jobs? How many people were killed? So pause it here and have a go at answering the questions. Brilliant, well done. So number 1 was 1 million, number 2 was 1.9 million, number 3 was 5.6 million, and number 4 was 6,300. Another primary effect was the total economic damage was 13 billion. This is a major problem for the Philippines as a newly emerging economy, because what this means is the government will have to take out loans to repair the damage, which means where the government might take out loans to pay this damage off, where the government's then in debt, they're going to have less money in the future to improve public services such as education and healthcare, which in the future is going to have a detrimental impact on the level of education people receive in the Philippines. So, what I want you to do for me working at home is I want you to write out these effects of Typhoon Haiyan and label them either primary or secondary. I also want you to label the effects social, economic and environmental. What I then want you to do is to explain the impact of one primary and one secondary effect. So that's where you do KU, so that might be where you write down 6,300 people were killed. This means there's less economically active people, which means the government gets less tax, therefore they have less income to repair the Philippines. And then I want you to decide what is the most significant and least significant effects. So I'll pause it here and let you crack on with that. Brilliant, guys. So let's just go through the answers. We've got answers here. First, the first one is primary. Second one here is secondary. Then we've got third one secondary. 1 million homes destroyed. Primary. 600,000 hectares of farmland flooded. Primary. Water supplies were contaminated. Primary. Flooding caused landslides which blocked roads. Secondary. Lack of clean water caused a cholera outbreak. Secondary. And the total economic damage was 13 billion. Primary. In terms of social, economic, environmental, 6,300 people were killed. Social. People losing their jobs, economic. People being homeless and houses destroyed, social. Farmland flooded, you could have environmental or you could have social as well. Water supplies contaminated, social. Landslides, environmental. Lack of clean water, social. And economic damage is obviously economic. So, what we're going to do now is come onto your blue zone. Okay, so what I need you to do is we need to make some sort of judgment around either primary or secondary effects were. So it says, with reference to a tropical storm you studied, Typhoon Haiyan, assess the significance of primary and secondary effects. So assess, you're making a judgment. To a large extent, the primary effects are significant, or to a small extent, the primary effects are significant. You then need to give an example of a primary effect from Typhoon Haiyan and explain it with R2 used, this means, which means. You need to do the same for a secondary effect. Are the impacts bigger or smaller? Give a secondary effect, this means, which means, and then a conclusion, saying if primary or secondary effects are more significant. You should also try to include two pieces of PLC, so place, location or context, from Typhoon Haiyan. I'll talk you through a chain of reasons to give you some ideas. So I might say, to a large extent, I believe primary effects are most significant after tropical storms. For example, the total economic damage of Typhoon Haiyan was 13 billion. This means the government may have to take out large loans to repair any damage, which means in the future the government will be paying off their loans, so it can no longer afford to improve public services, therefore having a drastic long-term impact on the Philippines, as public services such as schools and hospitals will not be able to provide the services needed. To a small extent, secondary effects of tropical storms are significant. You might say, for example, 1.9 million were homeless. And you think this means, what's that mean? Oh, people get sick, which means more people die. And then you have a conclusion. Okay? So here's a model. It's not perfect, but I'll just show it to you. So it says, I strongly believe that primary effects are more significant than secondary effects. The social primary effect after Typhoon Haiyan at the Philippines was 6,300 people died. Knowledge, PLC. This meant families could have been left without a source of income. Yeah, brilliant. However, that paragraph isn't finished because it doesn't then say the which means afterwards, or therefore why is that bad. To a lesser extent, secondary effects can also be significant. Assessment. An environmental secondary effect of Typhoon Haiyan was landslides blocking roads in rural areas. This meant medicine and aid could not reach rural communities. Good, you. But again, we haven't got another you there, understanding to explain why that is bad. So what does that mean? In conclusion, I believe that primary effects are more significant. Yeah, they've got a judgment, but they've not said why they believe that. So, here's your task. Pause the video here to have a go at answering it. Try and use as many keywords as possible. Once you've answered the exam question, the lesson will be over. Please feel free to email the work to your teacher, or I'd suggest to bring in the work you've done to stick it in your exercise book. Please remember to like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest geography videos. Thank you for watching.